see so many familiar faces. Your continued support is always greatly appreciated, so thank you. Just a couple of housekeeping things. Most of you know, but as well as just through the door there and sort of right to the side. Help yourself to food, there's more drinks, everybody will be sticking around for a bit of networking afterwards, so please do join us. We haven't got any fire alarms or anything planned, but when any floor in the building sets an alarm, it does sound down here, so don't panic if if you do hear a beeping noise, it's just one of the other floors setting an alarm. And also, just to let you know, we're going to film this evening. There's quite a few people that couldn't make tonight due to holidays and things like that, but they have asked to see the presentation, so we thought we'd film it and then at least we can send it to them for future reference. Without further ado, I will pass you over to Phil. Thanks ever so much for coming tonight. I'll leave you with Phil's hands, he's going to present for us.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody. Very unusual client presented to researchers. This could all fall apart really.
We'll give you a really hard time.
Look forward to it. So I'm just going to tell you. So Trace and I discussed the title, and we talked about entrepreneur. We can define what an entrepreneur is at some stage, if not later, because that's always a big debate. Some people call us entrepreneurs, not. But does research fit into an entrepreneurial environment? Do entrepreneurs use research? Surely we all need good research to grow. So first, I thought, let's tell you who I am, who we're all about food, what we do, and then we'll come on and talk a little bit about how we use research in a fairly broad sense within the business. So it's very much a client-side presentation. If we miss the mark, you can ask questions later and I'll try and answer those questions. So this is me. I'm Phil Lynas. I'm the Managing Director of All About Food. Hopefully do that for a few more years. Favourite food, anything spicy in the business when you look after Nando's, that's also good attribute. Favourite drink, red wine, which I'll be having when I get home tonight. My career started in, kind of age ourselves here, for example, 1985 with a company called Grandmet, which is now Diageo, where I was brand manager for Foster's in Carlsberg and responsible for introducing Caliber non-alcoholic lager into the UK. It was horrible. It's your fault. Well, it's my fault, yeah. It was the only beer that was non-alcoholic, so you weren't supposed to get the hang. You didn't get drunk. It still had the esters in it, so you still got a hangover the next morning. So you drank 4 or 5 pints of this horrible stuff. I then went to what at the time, I don't know if anybody knows much about Derby Valley Food, but Derby Valley Food at the time was one of the most entrepreneurial innovative companies in the UK. A small business set up by 4 ex-advertising and crisp people in Medon's New Road concert. And they created a range of snacks from around the world made in Medon's New Road concert called Philly's Fox Snacks, which they successfully sold to United Biscuits a few years later for about £30 million, which they're very good. I think they're still living and drinking off the consequences. I then worked for United Biscuits for 2 years but realised that the big company culture was not quite for me. So I went to work for Kirit at Patax and was global marketing and UK sales director there for 5 years. And then in 1999 I had the pleasure of meeting a guy called Robbie Ento. Robbie is he effectively owns Nando's worldwide now. At the time he just set up Nando's in the UK with 4 or 5 restaurants. And we had a chat a couple of months later. He phoned me and said, "Do you want to start a business?" Which is where All About Food started. And I'll come on and tell you a bit more about that later. Next step is retirement. I can't imagine doing anything for anybody else ever again. I can't work for anybody else anymore. Once you work for yourself, I'm sure most of you know, you can't go work for anybody else like that. And in my spare time, I drink, I eat, I cycle, I live a outdoors, I read. The cycling is to counteract food. Here is a brief film. I thought as an intro, just give you a flavour of who we are, and give you a sense of what All About Food is. I'll play you a brief video, so hopefully this will work. It's why we've been ferreting around with wires for the last half an hour, so it doesn't. It's been a complete bloody waste of time.
All About Food started life in 1999 with just 4 employees managing one brand, Nando's. Since then, we've grown into a business with sales of £16 million, representing some of the best-known brands on supermarket shelves all over the UK.
We take differentiated clean important products that put on retail shelf. In 2008, we changed the name of the business to All About Food, which really reflects what the business is all about. We are absolutely all about food. That's what we're passionate about. We call ourselves foodies, and we are, I think, slightly obsessed.
We've always placed great emphasis on who we bring into our team of foodies. Our people are our biggest asset and the key to our success. Through our people, we've continually achieved double-digit sales growth. And it's through our foodies that we plan to ramp up our success in the years to come.
I'm immensely proud of the team, right? It's a new team that's come together. I think it's gelled really, really well. We are changing a lot and we're putting in place some of the disciplines from the marketing world into this business. But as a group, it's great to see that they've actually embraced that change and really begin to build fantastic relationships with our brand owners.
At All About Food, we approach the workplace differently. From the outside, our office, the treehouse, looks like any other. But inside, the space takes on a whole new feeling. A feeling that translates through to our team. Sarah's been part of the All About Food family since the very start. And now can't imagine working anywhere else.
Working here is amazing. We're like family, and coming in every day it's an easy place to come to work to. The people are pretty special. We get on incredibly well, and I think that because we all have the same values, we are lucky in a lot of ways, and it's a great place to be.
When growth rates started to slow down around 18 months ago, the decision was taken to bring in fresh new talent. 10 vacancies were fought over by 700 applicants before the successful new team members were put through their paces on an intensive 4-week induction and learning program.
I'd say it was very tough and challenging, but also very rewarding. I learned a lot from it, and I really enjoyed it more than anything.
Everybody made you feel quite at ease and like they wanted you to do well as opposed to trying to trick you up. It was just more about making sure that you were right for the company and that the company was right for you.
It's nice to have a fresh approach to it. It's rather than being, right, you get it wrong, you're out, you kind of, we'll let you along the way. It's not all about the kind of getting it right there and then, it's about learning and developing.
Over the next 5 years, we plan to increase our sales to £50 million. We know it will be hard work, and we know the challenges that lie ahead. But we also know that by investing in and caring for our foodies, we'll have fun making money.
We like to set ourselves ambitious challenges, but more importantly, if we can maintain the ethos and the value of the business, have fun, make money, develop people, develop better skills, develop better relationships, and still walk in every single morning with a smile on the face, then we'll achieve the numbers anyway, because the values are what will make us the difference.
So I hope that gives you a flavour of who we are. We're a little bit different. We're absolutely obsessed about people with our business. We have no other assets. We don't own our brands. All these brands, apart from Cranks, which maybe some of you may have heard of, but Nando's, Pizza Express, Oaxaca, Wagamama, they're all licensed brands. We don't own our brands, we're under license. We don't make anything, we don't store anything, we just buy and stock and sell it out and add value. So people are absolutely critical to that. And our business looks fairly complicated on the first sort of vision, but essentially it's a bit slower than me. We work with brand owners who own great brands. We do everything a bit in the middle and we try and make sure those products are fantastic when they get to consumers. And it's no more complicated than that. We look after the marketing, the NPD, sales, research, logistics, so. This is our business. We started off with Nando's in 1999. 2014 we now look after Nando's, Pizza Express, Wagamama, Oaxaca, Gourmet Burger Kitchen, MasterChef, Egg Adapters and Cracks. So it's quite a nice, it's very fun. It's brands that you could write on off to go and work with. And our business ambition, it's got a 5-year plan. When we made that film, which is 2 years ago, that was for an Astra Young Investment People Award. Our turnover was 60 million, we just broken through 23 million. So in that 2 years, we've grown by another, whatever percent that is, whatever, maybe 40 or 50%. And our ambition is to do that through growing a base with our existing brands, adding new products to our existing brands, putting our existing brands in new channels, bringing in new brands, and then potentially at some stage we might start looking to acquire businesses at some stage. And this looks very detailed. I think it's quite important just to show you the way we think, the way we're trying to build the backbone of our strategy. ambition, our vision is having all of our food products in every kitchen in the UK. You might as well aim for the start, you never know where you're doing it. But our mission is to identify differentiated, opinion-forming, non-FMCG brands and make them successful in retail. Non-FMCG is quite important. The brands that we deal with have a stake somewhere else. Okay, so Nando's has 325 fantastic restaurants. There's a shop for them. They're advertising the brand. You get this, all your senses to touch. You've got taste, touch, feel, hearing, all being stimulated every time you walk through that door. And they act as 325 48 sheet posters for our business. They're building awareness of our brands. So if, and excuse my French, if Tesco tell us to fuck off, okay, we've still got 325 restaurants. So if you're Unilever and Tesco did this, you're pretty much in a mess. If we're listed, we've still got a nice big business over here. And Nando's is, Warburton's I think is the biggest food brand in the UK. We had Nando's grocery and Nando's restaurants together. We're a bigger brand than Warburton's. So, and we're growing at exorbitant rates. That doesn't mean we're bigger than Warburton's. They are still, the grocery environment is much better business, bigger business, but the potential is there. And the pillars of our business are really important. And I'll come back to this. Great people, happy shoppers and consumers, which I think resonates with people in this room in terms of how you get to talk to them. Becoming a trusted partner, both for brand owners, for our partners in research, in design, in media, but also for our brand owners, and brilliant execution. So I'm not going to go into all the detail behind this, but they're quite fundamental to the things I'm going to talk about. And just as a background to what we're about, this is sort of our underlying principle of our business. Some people will like me and some people won't. So I might as well be myself, and at least I know that people who like me. So we're a business in which you basically just be yourself and enjoy yourself and let yourself go every now and again. I do. I make a big fool of myself. Probably will do tonight. So foodies. So I start in how do we use research. This again, I don't know whether I've hit the market or whatever. Not that we'll talk about. Values. I think you saw from that film. Values are really, really important to our people. But you can impose values on people and say this is what the business stands for, or you can find out. So in 2011, when we brought on a whole new range of people, we sat down and looked at what the values of our business are. And we agreed what we did. So this is our start of internal research. We had our own internal focus groups, our own brainstorming sessions, our own understanding about what the business stood for, and then what that meant. So then everybody owned it. So for me, this is probably one of the most important pieces of sort of commercial research we've done. If your only asset is your people, and that's the thing you want to get the most from, then you need to understand what it is they mean by the values of your business. So we can trot out pride, passion, belief, integrity, and family, and we can tell you what that is. But the foodies themselves will define that and set it out. And that for me, in terms of, A, you find out from the foodies what they want, but B, they then own the solution as well. They're in charge of it, and that's very, very important. So to give you an idea of how that looks, this is one of our values, integrity. So rather than us telling people, you should treat others as you'd like to be treated and show a positive and honest expression of what they do, this has come directly out of straightforward internal focus groups run by us, moderated by us, probably very, very badly. But we'll call you into it properly next time. And I think this is essential. And then this is how it turns into, I've only shown two, but ownership of the solution is much more important, is much better if the people are involved in the process that we're going through. So internally as a business, we think the culture of the business is very, very important. So we have every year a climate survey, which is done to our advantage, where we try and understand what people's perception of business is. We have a culture of values survey, which we do either through SurveyMonkey or through a syndicated agency that we use. We took everybody on a snow trip last year. I put a snow trip survey up there just so I could boast that we took everybody on a snow trip to Morsey last year. And at the end of it, it was a very, very successful trip. But even a snow trip where we took people away to enjoy themselves, it was very, very important to us as a business that we understand what impact that had on people and what impact that had on their view of the culture and the values of the business. And this is my first complicated chart. I'm not very good at it. This is our happy beans. Okay, do you know when you go into Waitrose, you get with your till you get a little tag and you can drop into which charity you can support you. We have coffee beans in 3 jars. One has a smiley face, one has a flat face, one has an unhappy face. On the way out to the building every evening you drop a coffee bean in one of the jars. Okay, that's not very sophisticated, but it's research and it's understanding the culture and the direction. So this is our happy bean coffee chart, happy bean chart. since September 2011 was. And we can monitor that on a day by day, and you can see you can feel it when the beans go bad. But you can sense that's budgeting, and that's budgeting, and that's when the budgeting wasn't quite right. So, and this is when we went on a snow trip, and you can look at how the impact happened. It is ridiculously simple, okay? And I think, therefore, one of the things I think is that internal research and cultural research and climate research in the business doesn't have to be complicated. The little indicators that you have on a regular basis just tick away and just tell you what's going on in the business are really, really important. So, when you have an asset that is people, how are you measuring those people? How do you research and understand how they work as people in the business? So that's my first one. Consumer research. This is, business to business and consumer research is the business that we're all in. So we find it fundamental. And I come back onto the entrepreneurial business at the end. When you find out that the second most popular meal that people eat in the evenings in the UK is a sandwich, it starts to make you think differently about whether your cooking sauce is going to sell or your marinade or your spicy chili sauce. When you find out that the difference between a food connoisseur and a standard GB household is just that fresh fish and oriental dishes sneak in there, but they're really exactly the same as everybody else, it starts to give you a perception of where what to do. And what we're looking really with our business is to try and find out how we can take those mundane habits that we claim to have. We all claim to have a really broad repertoire, but most of us, I think the average is 6.7 meals every 2 weeks. So when you're in the food business, your job is to try and excite 6.7 meals or make them into 7 meals. And then you talk to Asda and they say, if you could add one more meal to that repertoire, again, to buy from my store, that's worth £100 million a week. Then you start to get a sense of the opportunity to change. We're all aware, people out there wanting to cook more, but they want to spend less time doing it. So we have this dichotomy between what scratch cooking and producing scratch time. So again, understanding those dynamics behind consumers is fundamental to us. So we build our own, we do a lot of work on Q&A, lots of category breakdowns, and obviously we have our own internal data. But we're trying to take complex information and make it very, 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 very simple. It's what you guys do every day, so I hope this is no surprise to you. We want to know what confident cook looks like, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to do, they're trying to eat. We want to understand the difference between a pragmatic cook and a tentative whatever cook. And essentially, most of our operation, most of our products work in this whole area of solution seekers where people are either they've got very, very little time and they want to have great results. They want hassle-free and they want great results. And they want guaranteed results. So with food, it's about the result. Especially if you're going to spend £15–20 on a meeting and pour over some sauce and it makes it taste good. So we're trying to make this as simple as possible. This chart has been the core of our business now for the last 3 or 4 years, in which we build all our sales. So it doesn't mean this chart has done our sales, but it's simple thinking that went behind it together has been very, very important to us. However, you probably know more about this sort of the whole trend landscape than I do. We may be entrepreneurial, we may have these great wacky ideas, but we spend hours and hours looking to try and see what's happening in the modern people, what's happening in the binge purge scenario. Why are people purging on themselves all the way through the weekend and then on Friday night you go and have 8 pints, you have a kebab and then you spend all Saturday Sunday drinking red wine. So what is that culture? What is it that's making people do that? What's happening? What's influencing our products in a way that people single living, the 1.7 households. Single living is creating a demand for different types of formats, different types of products. So part of my underlying message is this: we take this stuff seriously. Research is really, really important to us as clients. We don't pay lip service to it, and we pay lots of money to do nice research for us. It does fundamentally affect what we do. And part of, we had a recent survey which demonstrated that people think that Nando's bottle, which is the small bottle of 125, because it's small, it makes people think it's hot. If it was bigger, they wouldn't think it's as hot and they would use more. So let's put it in the big bottle. So there's a bigger bottle project happening at the moment, which will happen. We'll launch in Tesco very, very soon, but it's not complicated. It's not rocket science. Again, the more consumer profiling information we're looking at, very much about, again, family treaters that people want to look after their family, want to treat them the weekends. Adventurous singles are great. And they probably decide what we're going to do that day, go and buy it that night, and they just have a go. And the only person that can disappoint themselves is the seasonal guy. But but also spontaneous couples and weekends, and the difference between how people consume and purchase food during the week and how they consume and purchase food as entertainment at the weekend. And what we're doing as a business is trying to find those gaps, the little white space that allow us to become a better and more successful business. So looking on a familiarity exploration versus convenience and bold axis. What's that space? Is there a space in high convenience and high exploration? Is there a space in high convenience and medium familiarity? Look at where the competition is and where they are and see if those spaces exist. So my starting point as a premise is that entrepreneurialism is about finding the need. Okay? So successful entrepreneurs find that need more successfully than so there's lots of entrepreneurs who fail. I don't tell them my mailbox every week. Please can you help me with my mailbox? And this is how we take it. This is our Cranks brand tree. So we take some of that consumer research and we try to take it and understand and put it into the language of all about food. So we have stakes in the ground, things that can't be broken. Brand rules, brand personality, brand identifiers, brand mandatories. So Cranks, does anybody know the Cranks brand? So please ask questions as you go along, because I just don't, Cranks was the first vegetarian restaurant in 1961, opened on Carnaby Street. It was a food pioneer, it was radical, got bought by Guinness, then got bought by Piper Trust, and then by Capricorn, and we bought it for some ridiculously tiny amount of money in 2002, £65,000, which we wrote off in the books thinking it was money. We sell 1.5 to 2 million sandwiches a year, we sell about 1 million loaves of bread from the Cranks brand. And it's something that we think is a real asset to our business. But we try and get under the skin of the brand through the information that we've got through consumer research, through the information we've got through desk research, just get a real sense of what we're trying to do with that brand. And the core of Cranks at that time, it's a little bit out of date, was it's about naturally good for your body and soul, that directs where we're heading. But I think the phrase I like, which is it's the brand tree, because we have a tree house, and then we have a family tree, and then we have a brand tree. We've got a bit obsessed with the outdoors. But rooted in insight, rooted in consumer research, rooted in knowledge, rooted in understanding in the world. Okay, so then we might know a little bit about the consumer, but the retail landscape is changing. And this is some information from IGD Supply Conference a couple of weeks ago. So the global market, so the UK market for groceries is worth 174.5 billion at the moment. It's quite a lot. And it's going to grow to 203 billion. So that's great. So it's going to grow by 28.5 billion. So that's good news for everybody. Isn't that great? However, 19.3 million of that growth is just simply going to come from having more people in the country. Okay? 6.3, from inflation and prices. 6.3 million is going to come from having more people. The only thing the growth that's going to come from volume from suppliers, manufacturers, great brands doing great work is 2.9 billion out of 28. So only 10% of that growth is going to come from brands. Not only that, the retail landscape is fundamentally changing. We've all seen what's happened with Aldi. There was a report today that said Aldi and Lidl in the end of 2015 combined would be bigger than Morrison's. Their combined sales this year are expected to be £10 billion in the UK. Aldi did a profit warning 5 years ago, we had to write off one of the biggest corporate write-offs on UK books. They wrote off 400 million. They're now a 5 billion operation, respected and loved. They've changed the face of retail. So if you're a traditional brand like us, and we're asking you as researchers to go and talk to our consumers in supermarkets, is that great? Go and you do a little walk them down the aisle, check what they're doing, see what their eye tracking is, and they're going, well, they're not in there, they've put it off to convenience. Or they've gone online. So 10% to 12% of our sales as a business now are online through retail. We don't sell anything to discounters at the moment, but at some stage in the future, we're going to have to understand how do you research the impact of discounters might have on your brand, on consumers. Do people think differently of your brand as they walk into an Aldi as they do into Tesco? But more importantly, the moment you get yourself into Aldi, as they're doing this to you, there's no retailers here. Big bad. So going, this is very macro, but that understanding what's happening in that retail environment for us is very, very important. It's shaping as to how we think about our long-term strategy. So if we continue to play in the areas that we're strong, which is hypermarkets and small supermarkets, in which we've got 71, 72% of our sales, we're going to struggle. because they're going to be 50% of the marketplace in 3 to 5 years' time, not the 60% they are. So they're going down and we're going up. So understanding that framework for me is really important. So the market is going to grow the next 5 years by £31 billion in these 3 channels. So convenience, discount and online are going to grow by 31 billion, but the total marketplace is going to grow by 28.5, which means the traditional place in which we shop, the traditional place in which we research and understand our consumers is going to change. And as a result of that, those parts of the business are in another chart. So knowing what the new world order is, knowing how the world is going to change at a macro level is really, really important. We're seeing lots of innovation in click and collect. We're seeing shoppers shop much more often and for much less. A lot of people shop 4, 5, 6 times a week. But lots of people who only buy what they're going to eat that day on the way home. So understanding that impact on consumer purchase habits is really important. Discount is going to double in size in the next 5 years. 51% of consumers used a discount in the last month. So it's not the rise of the savvy shopper is a trend and a change that's happened in the marketplace, and it's really, really important. Supermarkets, if you've got a 60,000 square foot supermarket in Watford, which now has a Florence and Friendly, it's got a giraffe index, they bought giraffe, it's got a Harrison Pool, it's got an Emporium bakery, and next hopefully it's going to have a nice big Nando's Bay. So where do you do with that space? The white goods and the brown goods that used to fill your supermarket, they've gone. Because people go in there to have a look at them on a shelf and then they go and buy them online and have them delivered to their house. So the world of supermarket, big box retail has fundamentally changed. You can go to Aldi and buy Wagyu beef, great headline. They supply 50 units to 50 stores. But what all the publicity? What wins all the awards every year for best Christmas cake, best Christmas pudding, best Easter egg? Aldi, Lidl, because they know exactly what they're doing. They're making certain small core parts of their portfolio work really, really hard for them. People, if you ask what do you think about Aldi, their wine is fantastic. They've probably got 2 or 3 really good wines, but they've talked about it. And they're brilliant. They've got 6,000 lines. Tesco and Coke have 32,000 lines in their business. Aldi have 6. They make a lower margin. They employ less people. It's not complicated. You don't fall over things to go down the aisle. So some of these things, I don't know how much you get involved in these things, how much you look at these sort of things, but on a business to business and on a consumer to business to consumer level, these are the fundamentals that are going to change, and these are seismic shifts for the next 5 years. And knowing and understanding those and being ahead of that curve, possibly the definition of what entrepreneurialism might be, or being challenging or a challenging business. And our shopper is, we go and we do research groups, we do quantitative groups, we do qualitative analysis, we might do eye tracking, we might do store tracking, but they're going now into 4 channels the last month. So I've been bought online, I've been to convenience, I've been to a forecourt, and I've been to a supermarket. And within the next 5 years, I want to go to 5 different levels. My channel expectation, like where I'm going to buy my products, is going to fundamentally shift. Still, 90% have gone to a supermarket last month, so if you live in that world of 90% go to supermarkets, the world is fine, I'm going to be okay. And you're just slightly missing the point. And they all, 60% are shopping around different channels to find out what's the best product, what's the best price. So we've got a savvy shopper. One of the things I've always found suspicious in qualitative research is, put the product in front of them. You go, I'll pay £2.50 for that. And you always know that the price they say they're going to pay in qualitative research is never right. But they're going to find out how much it is, and they're going to go online and they're going to research it. And if the old is on the way to the Lidl, or the old is on the way to the Marks and Spencer's, they'll stop. And that, we talked about the German model in years in the past, where people in fur coats would go to Aldi and then go next door to the premium shop. That's here. We become a different shopper.
That is mine.
That is your model. Yeah. And it's not going to go away. It's fundamental that change is not going to come back. And there's also been I think what Justin King calls a seismic shift in calorie consumption in the UK. We may be getting obese, we may be getting bigger, but that's only because we're doing less exercise. Calorie consumption of physical calories consumed in the UK over the last 50 years have dropped by 30%. We are not buying more food. We are not becoming obese because we eat lots of food. we're going to be so higher and more and bigger because we don't do anything. It's not as simple as that, but understand the dynamic that sits behind it. If you're a government, you try to decide how you address obesity. It isn't about changing necessarily sugar or salt or fat, which is what we talk about. It's getting kids out there, playing around, getting exercise again. So again, beyond the data, and understanding research. So if I was Tesco or Morrison's at the moment, this was my growth performance, I'd be quite upset. The graphs are expressively funny on the side, but basically they've been in terminal decline the last 12 months. 3 years. This is the chart for Holding, who are currently in the last 4 weeks up 33.5% year on year. We have started to jump. This is a bit of this is our new baby. We've decided to help Asda fill their space by working with them on having a full bay of Nando's products in Asda. So this is a lot of work for us. You'll be pleased to hear that we're now going to do some eye tracking research in those stores that have it and don't have it to see how shoppers perform. We're going to send them to the store, ask them just to go and find chili sauce and see what their reactions are and how they perform. But this is a major step forward. This is our way of addressing where the next step is. If there's space, let's make that space exciting, let's make it thrilling, let's make it interesting. This is the first step. When you start having, press a button, the cockle shouts out, or the smell of peri-peri comes out, then we've really made it. So, our consumers, we're trying to keep on top of our foodies and make sure that we know what they're talking about, we know whether they're happy, whether they're unhappy, what they're trying to achieve. We clearly want to make sure what's happening, we know what's happening with our consumers and within the retail framework. And then there's the category that we actually operate in the UK. And this is where we spend a lot of time as a business. So it's probably, this is sort of research that you don't necessarily see. This is more possibly IRI or Nielsen or the data that comes in. This quality is simply just plain desk research. We went into a Waitrose meeting recently and the buyer sat there and said, I've got you anything else. You make too much money. Give me your margin. So the information is easily available. For £1, you can go to company's house, or you can go to company's house, pay £1, and I can find out how much money you actually made last year. No, maybe I can't. Or when you made money last year, whether your fees are good. But for a retail buyer then to turn around and say, I think you make too much money, is a phenomenal. Not often you go into a buying situation like that. So, our competitors and our customers are looking at our information just as much as we're looking at theirs. But we obviously, we're looking to see what's happening in the retail world and what's happening in terms of flavours. The big flavour trends at the moment we're hearing are Thai, still, Mexican, French, Southern American, I think is, if you look at the growth of hickory, it says it's hickory. They've been to Reds in Manchester yet? Yeah. Go there, it's great. Can't tell you what you shout down much. We're working with them on this project. But that whole pulled pork Southern American Route 66, which is Newman's owners have come out and brought some products out of that area. But there's some fundamental food trends that still continue to be big. And this is a dashboard that we've had. This is what we call the red report. If an arrow is pointed downwards, we've got a problem. If it's pointed upwards, it's great. It's green. So we've tried to decide to change it from being what's called red reports to green reports. So because for us at the moment things are looking quite good. But this comes out every 4 weeks, every 12 weeks, every 52 weeks, so we can understand what our brand's doing, what our customers are doing, and what our brand's doing with our customers. And I think I put up something earlier about being a trusted partner. Trusted partner means that the same with you. This is, I think, something where we have to link very closely to you. Unless you give honest and independent viewpoints, then there's no point doing your job because you just kowtow into the client. So we put, this is our chili sauce, so we've got retailer shares, we've got our shares, and what's going on in the world. But within this, when we go to, we send this direct to the retailers. We personalise it to each individual buyer so we know exactly what we're getting. And in there, we quite often tell them to take our product out. Because it's not working. It's not the person's product is doing. So that whole trusting being confident in your own opinion. If you go constantly to people and say, we're an amazing business and everybody else is crap, then you're not going to become a trusted partner. So the way we use this research is very, very honest. And occasionally, it can backfire on us. It means that we might lose a product for a while. But at least it maintains that value we talked about before. Kantar is an amazing piece of work. Again, we can now find out what's happening in penetration, in frequency, and weight of purchase throughout years. The most effective driver of our penetration on numbers last year was £1 Tesco promotion. So we could advertise it, we can have 25 restaurants, but the thing that made people come and buy it was a £1 deal in Tesco. And in July last year, our penetration of our brand grew by 1 point. So 1% of households more bought in the UK as a result of that one promotion. So as a measure of its effectiveness, it's a superb tool. This is the Nando's measures tree, and what's most important here is our penetration grew by 33.6. We're bringing consumers into the category, so we're growing the category for the buyers. This is the language we need to talk to them about. Are we bringing consumers to your fixture? And when they leave the fixture, if Nando's isn't there, what happens? They leave the fixture completely. So these are all selling tools. These are all ways of increasing our values to retail. Beyond that, we then start looking into Peri Peri. Peri Peri is present in chili sauces, which we operate. That's a market that's worth 39 million. But it's also present in all these other marketplaces. Within supermarkets, there's £18 billion of the grocery sales category in which the word Peri Peri is present. We're only in a category that's worth 39 million. So why don't we go and pay in some of the big ones? So watch this space. We'll never sell Peri Peri chicken, raw chicken, because only Nando's goods can sell chicken. That's what we tell them. But looking and understanding where our products are present and what the size of the macro environment is that we're operating. And then we start looking at where we see participation and engagement by category to understand which of those subcategories are potential opportunities for us to play. And then this is, I'm not going to go into this, it's just ridiculous. So, I'm getting sort of towards the end, I've no idea how long we're going. We have a thing we call the triple win. The triple win is if we can create a product or a range or a proposition that means the consumer's happy, the retailer's happy, we're happy, then that's got to be good for business. So invariably that means we can make some money. Our brand owner's happy because the brand fit is good, the product fit is right, the presentation design, all the multiple services is right. The retailer essentially makes money, and we have most of our products operating in an area where we're margin accretive to retailer. We make more money in those products than other people in those categories do. But most importantly, the consumer is happy with that thing. They see it, there's a reason they can walk to that shelf. And that's the triple win that we are seeking. And we're still trying to marry those and make sure that those research needs that we have as a business, or those, I say, macro, micro, qualitative, quantitative, business, consumer, it doesn't matter what they are, it doesn't matter where they come from, are focused on understanding better the four critical pillars of our business. So we can measure whether we've got great people and whether our great people are happy. We can measure whether we're bringing more consumers and shoppers into the category, and that's making the retailer more happy. We can measure through our market share, through our performance, and through our penetration, whether we can be a trusted partner with our retailers and with our brand owners. But also we can measure the brilliance of our execution. So they're critical. Those four things are critical to our business success. Unless we measure them, then how can we say whether we're doing our job properly? And going back to marketing day one, book one. Marketing is about satisfying consumer needs profitably. That's the most simple, copper explanation of marketing. And the word needs, for me, is really important. We took a very, very different approach when recruiting our sales team. Our sales team have an average age of 24. So our national account managers, our national account manager for Tesco just turned 25 a couple of weeks ago. Doesn't have a big black pilot box. He doesn't drive a BMW. He has a beard. He sometimes goes there in shorts and flip-flops. Big cars, that's the way he likes to roll. Very rare. He drives Mini Countryman. He owns his own pigs, which he occasionally flavors with poker and makes sausage for us. But we also took it very, very different. So what we saw, the reason I put that thing about people at the beginning was we tried to take on different types of people who will do different things, do difficult things, and do things differently. And we're also trying to give them the tools to be different. So we don't go in and present to retailers, we don't present to customers. We don't say, here's our product. But if you've seen Wolf of Wall Street,
Yeah.
last bit, selling his pen. It's a lovely pen. It's a really nice pen. I don't want that. Shit. Unless people need that pen, it's the old Oxford University trick. Sell with an ashtray, throw the ashtray out the window. Do you need an ashtray? Yeah. We're talking about this ashtray. Unless we understand what those needs are, then we're wasting our time. And lots of entrepreneurs, and I get genuinely, we have a hello, it's all about food, or help, or sales, all about food, every week. I've come up with a really great idea for a hot chili sauce. Can you help me launch this product? What's different about it? Well, I like it. My friends tell me it's fantastic. Okay, that's great. But every now and again you get a gem of an idea that comes through and it says, well, I'm trying to do something different. I've recognised a consumer. And if you look at Steve Jobs at Apple, he was quite self-referencing. He said, this is what I want. If I was a consumer, based on a bit of gut down here, this is what I want. I would like to be able to press that button and do this, and that'd be great. I think he created products that worked for him because he felt he was the perfect consumer for Apple products. And he's created a monster of a business by satisfying the needs. We don't know that we need to press a button to find out what the weather's going to be like tonight because we're in Canal Street and we want to decide how many people can send it for research. We don't need that until we get it. Then we go, oh, we're not going to be good at many people tonight because it's 32 degrees. We don't need a game on the truck. We don't need to have a book to go. We don't need these things until we're told and somebody shows it to us. So getting under the skin of consumers, getting under the skin of what they want is absolutely critical to our business success. And how do you understand needs if you don't ask questions? So we go and see our customers and we hopefully talk to our consumers on the basis of asking questions, getting deeper in, asking the whys, asking the why, what, when, how, where, who, rather than, I bought some very, very sauce, will you buy it? If they turn around and say, well, it'd be great if you created a chili sauce and you could sell it for around about £2 and it would be in a small bottle and it would be from a restaurant. Okay, don't go away. Come to actually, and then you come back with a solution. So when you come back with that solution, you're not having to pay 55-60% margin. The conversation is about satisfying a need, not about giving people money. So there's a financial benefit to research, a financial benefit to understanding needs. So my view, and I've underlined successful entrepreneurs, because I think you probably don't. I don't know what an entrepreneur is. People call me an entrepreneur. I don't think I'm an entrepreneur. I came up through Brown there. I went through an entrepreneurial business. I went to United Biscuits. They're quite entrepreneurial. Patex is a particular entrepreneur. It's not. I just got the opportunity to start a business. I was very lucky. I was on that chance. I don't think I'm necessarily an entrepreneur. I do think we're people who are trying to look at things differently. And if that means we're entrepreneurial or we're challenging or whatever, then great. But there are lots of you don't hear about the unsuccessful entrepreneurs. You always hear about this. The ransom great, and jobs great, and isn't all about who's wonderful. It's self-what's money. So I think successful entrepreneurs need to understand and analyse needs in order to be able to make a new view of life. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change people's perception. Walk into a store and sell retail and sell for a customer and sell them something they're willing to pay that much extra because they just didn't realise they needed. One of the best innovations I've seen recently is the little Robinson's triangle, the squash. Did I know that I need to squirt some squash into my water that I bought? Well, I didn't, but it's handbag size. Well, not that handbag. It's pocket size, and it's brilliant. And I think it's going to sell that out case. And it recognises that people want to have a mover, a live weather mover around, want to have some in the car, so they buy some water and have a bit of flavour. I hate water, but I also don't want to pay the extra price of that, so I've got a convenient way of doing it. Brilliant, simple. Did I know I needed it? No, but someone found a way. Someone got under the skin of that and recognised the trends. The other thing I think we need as well, we need research to stay entrepreneurial. If we're going to continue to challenge and understand all that stuff, those charts, all that stuff, that sounds really boring, but that's how we operate every day. We discuss and we understand the data, we're trying to get under the skin of consumers. And in order to stay as an entrepreneurial business, then and stop becoming corporate or a behemoth, then we want to keep the research to keep going down. And now the answer I suppose I have is probably entrepreneurs maybe just add a healthy dose of gut feel or sometimes I think this, therefore that's what we're going to do. And occasionally they'll ignore research as well and keep the view on what they think should be. So that was it. It was just a client-side view of how we use research in an everyday environment for consumers, for our own employees, with retailers in a macro environment, in a category environment, and without it. The first thing I did when I started the business was to buy market data. That sounds really simple, and it cost us a lot of money that first year. We probably couldn't afford to do Nobody else does it. It doesn't cost one. That's it really. I don't know if it's satisfying what you're looking for, but it's a bit of a client-side look at what we're trying to do. And if there's any questions, I'm very happy to take it to any stage. Thank you.
Questions? Go on, Lana.
It's kind of a question / request.
Yeah.
So you sort of represent Wagamama's, yeah?
We did until about a month ago.
Oh.
Fancy me. No, we don't anymore.
Oh, no.
Not because of us any problems, but okay, classic problem. Okay, we went to Wagamama and said we're doing a great job with you. We've been working with you since 2006. We think we can do lots more with your brand.
Yes.
You don't need to don't worry about it. You don't need to do very much because we'll do it all for you. And they said, oh, that'll take loads of money at the time. It was one of those shit or bus conversations. It was a twist almost. We could have got them to develop more products and more ranges, but they felt that this business would be too time consuming. So as a result of that, they decided to withdraw completely from retail, and we're no longer dealing with the brand. So, sorry.
Well, thanks for being honest. My idea of please begging them to make katsu curry sauce in a jar, and I think I probably represent half the nation in that as well.
And me.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted them to do was launch it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not rocket science, is it?
No, it's like I
great
never
product.
understood and then when I found out that you were coming to speak here and that you, and I was like, why have they not done this?
Again,
You kind of answered that question. I'm sorry to, you have to announce.
So I'll be honest with you. Hopefully keep it in the community. Wagamama have got an obsession that their katsu curry sauce is amazing, and it is. It's fantastic. They're actually within their contract. If an employee reveals the recipe for the katsu curry, they can be sued.
Wow.
And for a considerable amount of money, and they have to sign a contract. So but I think if you could sell katsu curry in retail, it would have a massively positive impact on restaurants.
Yeah.
And again, go back another stage. This is now go back into decision trees. We've done a massive amount of work on decision trees, because one of the dilemmas we've always had is that if I'm going to eat Nando's at home, then I'm not going to eat in the restaurant. If I'm going to have a pizza at home, that stops me going to the restaurant. Now, restaurant margins are considerably better than supermarket margins. They're much more profitable businesses. It's much better to sell a £12 pizza in Pizza Express restaurants than it is to sell a £5 pizza in Tesco on a half price deal.
Yeah.
On which Pizza Express get a royalty that's come from so ever diminishing small part. But the decision tree you make about how you're going to do that is really important. So part of our business strategy is built on a fundamental understanding of the decision tree, which is you make the decision to eat in or to eat out. Then you decide on eat out is then takeaway, what's fast food, what's restaurants, what's casual dining. Then you get to casual dining, and then it's Nando's, it's Pizza Express, it's Wagamama, it's what's hashing. And then you get down into the decision trees are so separate.
Yeah.
I think katsu curry would work brilliantly in retail and could potentially launch with another brand. The sushi one's very nice. No, but understanding that decision tree allows us to be able to justify our existence as a business that takes brands that already exist in a restaurant and selling in a supermarket. So, sorry.
No, that's all right. Carry on with you, sushi.
If they return my call.
Any other questions?
I've got a question which is probably relevant given we're here, because as you build your consumer typologies and segmentations of consumers, what at the research end people end up with, and it's not so much my problem as it is when I look at field work, much more complicated algorithms for recruitment that become more and more precise. I suppose I've got a question about how well do you think research delivers against that requirement? Fair to say it's a difficult one.
I think it's a very difficult one. I think it's an honest perspective from a client. I go to research groups, and I tend to still see in qualitative groups the same sort of people, and it's very, very difficult to get under the skin of that and say how do you get it. You've got a number of you've got a very diverse consumer, very, very, very highly segmented. Reaching them through research is difficult. Reaching through advertising media is unbelievably difficult. my sense is that there's probably still a step on to go in terms of making sure we can reach in quantitative research a more targeted consumer for those groups. It still tends to be, and I'll get shocked out to say this, someone who knows somebody, and I give them a quick call because I'm back at the 8, and I know there's a lot of science and a lot of algorithms that go into it, but you still walk in and tend to get the same stuff. I would love to go into a research group. You probably do this of a completely different bunch of people. We have started to see that in Nando's. We have started to see a lot more diversity, a lot more targeting on the quality of people getting into research. I'd said in the last 12 to 18 months, I've said our quality groups have improved dramatically. So I think maybe there's a recognition of the segmentation is getting better and better.
And becoming more important to actually follow it rather than think it's a error.
Yeah. And then you also think about how you reach opinion forms through the digital media, digital and social world, and how do you target your audience that way as well? We have a tool called Pulsar. I don't know if anybody knows Pulsar. Pulsar is a way we can analyse web traffic information to find out what words are being used and how they're being used by who, what age group. And that's become a new tool that's come to business recently. And having digital marketing manager just need to get information on what people are talking to. Because you have to have a direct relationship with consumers in social. You need to be talking to them. They've typed something. There's an argument between Nando's and Pizza Express consumers on Facebook a couple of days ago. And it was good, it was all good fun, but Nando's got involved, Pizza Express got involved, and it became a dialogue and a bit of fun, and it reached lots of people because they got involved. They could have missed that trick by just not following it. I understand that.
How easy was it when you were starting off, just thinking of an entrepreneur, because you bought market data, but actually then commissioning research, how easy was it to do that? I suppose I'm thinking budgets-wise.
Yes. Okay. You remember Ray McGee at Phileas Fogg, Roger McKechnie at Phileas Fogg. They had a very, very simple philosophy, which was about packaging. I'll just use a packaging analogy to start with. If you've got £10,000 spending on packaging, if you've got £50,000 spending on packaging, you've got £250,000, well, just spend on packaging, because that's the point of purchase, that's where you go. In terms of understanding consumer needs and starting an entrepreneurial business, I think understanding the consumer, understanding the category, understanding the retail environment in which you operate is absolutely fundamental. So when you're being brave, having that data at your fingertips is really important. And in those very, very early days, we did probably, compared to our budgets, a significant amount of money was spent on trying to understand what consumers thought about Nando's, what they thought about it. We were just Nando's for the first 5-6 years. So yeah, I think we probably over-invested. And then went through a period where we thought we knew everything. Stopped investing. Genuinely, went through a period where our people are great and all the information we could ever need, and you become a bit sort of, you don't need to know anything, but it becomes that research, use it to educate the business, review, and then go back into the research. So that we stopped that cycle. We said, we know it all. I think our investment in research over the last 2-3 years has dramatically increased. For great good to the business, we've nearly doubled in the last 3 years as a business.
A very good reminder of thinking about the totality of your business though, as a client, when you get back and give, here's a conclusion and recommendations from research, and it's kind of always important to sense check it against some practical business issues.
Delivery charge just put this really big macro thing in there of about £31 billion against a research group that says, you get the little speech bubble that says, I think the products are a bit too expensive. I thought you try to take that very, very, very micro piece of information and marry it against a very macro piece of information. And somewhere in the middle, there's a bubble of choice where you have to make some information decisions about how you drive the business. We have so much information. Again, then you get into a danger of information overload. So knowing what other information clients are looking at on an ongoing basis is quite important, because they're going, which bit of all this information? If you present a 60, 70, 80 page presentation on what's going on, then you're pretty sure that 1 or 2 of those pages might get saved into a file, the rest of it again. Thinking about how you present information, how you get the client engaged, and how you use that. Our time is becoming more and more difficult to get hold of. We can save every presentation in the world, but it's in the folder and never gets used. Putting things into a format that we know can get translated directly into a retail format or down into a presentation, or recognises its satisfying needs for this really important. Sorry.
Just kind of a general question really. So you represent like Nando's, so you're saying Wagamama's and Teacher Express and things.
Yeah.
Is there no, especially when you're selling it to consumers in supermarkets, say, is there no conflict of interest? And if so, how would you kind of manage that?
What, because of our ownership structure? Or we're owned by, I mean, I started what we're owned by Nando's. I own 20% of the business, the other 80% is effectively owned by Nando's. But when we go to talk to Pizza Express and GBK and what have you, they don't mind the fact we're owned by the business.
Then do you not, if I was, say, going to Tesco,
yeah,
and I saw some Nando's sauces, it's either a decision between tonight I'm going to have a Nando's chicken,
yeah,
or I'm going to buy a Pizza Express pizza. How would you then? Is that
I'd like to think of the 7 occasions that they should make a choice about their recipe, which means one is going to be chicken, one's going to be pizza, one's going to hopefully be Mexican, which is what happened, one's going to be burger. So I'm trying to find ways that we try not to have any brands that compete with each other within a particular cuisine. And then we can sort of lay our business, so we wouldn't have Wagamama and Yo Sushi at the same time. We certainly wouldn't have Nando's and KFC. We wouldn't have 2 brands of country as such.
Do you have 2 sorts of peri-peri sauce within the offering sauce? So you don't ever have Nando's peri-peri sauce?
Yes. Oh, we talked about, do you bring out no label? Are you the sort of business that controls that second tier? That's a really lengthy decision. Do you bring out a range of, I don't know, Pando's peri-peri sauce that can go into Aldi and Lidl, or what is that bit? Or what do you do, how do you manage that? But I think it just takes your focus away. We've decided not to do it. That might, I don't know, could we represent another? We don't represent Pizza Express, that's not my back of all. We do the salad dressings and the passata. But could we, because we don't do pizzas, could we do pizzas for Strada or for Cambridge or something?
Yeah.
I think it's about, if you're going to be a trusted partner, you make your choice about which brand you think is the best one.
Yeah.
And at the moment when I went into a shopping centre in Solihull 5-6 years ago, and I walked down to Nando's, Pizza Express, Wagamama, Natasha, Crawley, the kitchen, I walked down this way, and we represented all those 5 brands. I thought, we made it! Yes. And, but yeah, I couldn't eat it all 5, so
I was going to say, which one did you choose then?
I went to Jim.
How quickly do you get stuff to market? How fast on your turnaround?
We can do things reasonably quickly, but I mean, we're going to bring out another flavour of peri-peri sauce, and that's relatively easy. Different label, different flavour. Hopefully the flavour's new and additive to the portfolio.
So within 6 months?
Yes, yeah, we'll bring it out next year. We started talking about it a couple of months ago. So within probably 9 months, taking the existing product, because of all the work you've done with flavours and development, and a little bit on that. The last bit is always the label and bottle. The work done on MasterChef, which I have to say so far has been relatively unsuccessful. I think let's be straight about it. We've got a brand there which we think is fantastic, but I don't think we've quite got the proposition. I think our insight, I think, has been that we missed the mark, and we're working very hard now to recover that. Because of all the work we did on consumer propositions, bringing the consumer on, bringing the brand owner on, bringing manufacturers and suppliers on, that's been a good 18-month journey, and a very expensive one. We've probably bought £1 million of that product before we launched it. And some, there are other products you just put 20 grand in. You add another flavour and you go, this is great. So they're very difficult decisions. And they're risky. We've made lots of mistakes. We've done loads of money on products that just haven't worked. So again, we had no successful entrepreneurs. Quite a lot of products they brought out that have failed individually. But everything works. Whatever the research says, whatever the consumer says, whatever the facts in the marketplace, just nobody buys it.
With your new offering, like this Nando's area, you mentioned Asda taken that on board at the
There's
moment.
50 Asda stores now.
Yeah, so is that something you'll roll out in other supermarkets, or have Asda got the rights on it? How does it sort of work?
Very rare you have a brand like Nando's where you have actually retailers fighting it. I'm not saying we're not that brand, we're not that big, we're not that successful, but when Tesco buy it, they're saying our heat map of consumers is the same as Nando's, and Asda's isn't. And Asda's saying our heat map of consumers is the same as Nando's, but Tesco's is different. They want, it's a brand that actually has got some real value, because it's a love brand. People actually love going to Nando's. There's a relationship they build with it. It's very, very, very strong. So Tesco, when we worked with Asda, they were quite happy to do it. We paid for to do it. And we've got to make sure it works now. So we'll have to keep on tweaking the product range and updating it on a regular basis to make sure it works. Using the eye tracking to understand what people are seeing, it'll help us educate how we design our labels across the vast number of products. But we're in discussion with another major retailer, about doing that in a lot of stores next year and going on to the next stage. So part of being a brand side operator, being a client side operator is I've got something for Asda. Now when Tesco asks me, I've got their vans. When I get into Tesco, the next stage, Asda will say, well, why have we got them? You were already leapfrogging that stage of everyone's just got something for Tesco. You talk about differentiated consumers and differentiated retailers and differentiated media. The job of a marketeer is probably, and a business is becoming more and more and more complicated. It's not becoming easy. But if you have, or if you be very, very targeted, and you can say, I've got a very tight audience, and everybody know what shops to go to, and you can focus on that you can be very, very successful in a small way. And we're just on that curve and move from a small business to becoming a much bigger business, but while retaining all those values and attitudes and research-based, entrepreneurial, e-based analysis of a small business.
I think the retailer angle is quite interesting because in the mix, because certainly from an Aldi point of view, everybody looks at it and says, oh, it's all about the can consumer. But it was a deliberate move from Aldi to attract those people in terms of when they advertise the store, the way they did the Light Brands campaign. And that was all about them having an influence on the market, not just consumers changing their opinions.
And they are a fantastic operation. You look at the quality of people they're taking to their business as well as run it. It is top-notch retail operators in there, and they are hugely successful. And I remember when United Biscuits bought Philly Stock, and people might remember this truth, they said, we're going to buy this brand because it's an entrepreneurial, innovative brand, and when it comes to United Biscuits, it can mushroom up through the organisation. All those values will mushroom into this big organisation. And what happens is this great big fucking multiplied before they squash it. Okay? And that's quite often what happens. So what you'll see now, which I think is really interesting, is Sainsbury's got this deal with Netto. So Sainsbury's is saying, we accept that discounts for Netto left this country with massive debts, a real failure. But Sainsbury's, by working with Sainsbury's on the right sites, the right locations, Netto company, Sainsbury's is being very clever. They're investing in it. They're saying we have 15 stores start and then maybe 100. You're absolutely right. The only reason Aldi ended up being successful is because they know their consumers. They deliberately targeted those people. They knew exactly where to locate themselves. And the biggest write-off that Aldi had was building stores in the wrong places that they had to close down and get rid of before they realised that they had to locate them in different places. And then again, we need new ways of thinking. If we're going to revitalise high street, we're going to revitalise town centres. You've got to look at the model in some areas where they're taking the cost of parking. They said, don't come and pay for parking in the town centre. We make town centres it's almost a pariah for a consumer. You go there, it's saying quid to park, and you have to walk for them. So why wouldn't we go to an out-of-town place? So the whole approach to retail, shopping and business is changing and continues. It's a very, very exciting time to be involved, but it does mean that there will be new brands and new retailers and new types of consumers coming through that we don't know about yet. And that's what's exciting. If you can identify those through research and understand what they need and how they're different, then you're going to make some other people very, very rich. And yourself, of course.
Do you think, though, that the recession, which, we've had 6-7 years of recession, has made a fundamental difference? Because, Aldi Lidl, great ideas and everything, but without that little help of a recession that's tightened everybody's budget, probably wouldn't have had the same success that they've managed to achieve.
Do you remember the favourite phrase? The famous phrase, it's amazing how lucky hard-working people are. And I genuinely believe that. I'm really lucky. I met a guy called Robbie. He said, do you want to invest in business? He lent me the money to do it. I'm quite a hard worker. I'm reasonably verbose and got along, and hopefully a little bit of intelligence and got a bit of savvy. So that bit of hard work combined with a bit of luck makes like a business. I'm going to retire one of these days. I think what you say there is that you're absolutely right. Aldi recognised that macro change in recession, but they adapted their business to make it work. And
by getting that right,
the way
people are not going to revert back to old behaviour. I think that behaviour has changed permanently.
Yeah,
savvy shopping is really there.
The broker from who spoke to us in e-commerce, I can't remember what he's called, Clive Black, he he said if Tesco doesn't change their policy on pricing and strategy in the UK, they will lose 10 points in market share. So they're currently 30, they go down to 20. I remember the days when Sainsbury's were market leaders and Tesco took them, and they've gone from 16% to 32. They're now below 30, and the people talking about them becoming, unless they fundamentally change their margin expectations.
Tesco's have cheated the consumer. They've spent a lot of time trying to sell the consumer that they were delivering a deal.
Yep.
And in the meantime, they were doing every scam they possibly could to confuse the consumer price until the consumer found out.
Yeah, and I think probably the people in this room, more than anybody else would say, the consumer knows what they do. They're savvy. They know when the price goes up, another price goes down. Or down price goes down, another price goes up. They know what real value is. Yeah, they've been caught out. So genuinely caught out. And no, the world is not going to change. The supermarkets will not have their dominance, and that's the way it's been. We all remember when Marks and Spencer's was a powerhouse. No, Marks and Spencer's could never have a bad year, and all of a sudden we get 5, 6, 7 years of bad performance. Phil Clark gets kicked out. That's good. You've got to wonder how long Dolphin Phillips is going to last. And those sort of things have real impacts. And that's why I'm trying to paint this picture of going from a microcosm of what someone says in a research group in Macclesfield, to the macro element of what's happening in the big world and how the next global powerhouses are going to be the mid countries or BRIC countries, and how we develop businesses. And how can I, again, sorry, back to affiliate spot. We had a long debate with the advertising agency on affiliate spot for 4 years, and they wanted us to expand into Europe, the advertising agency, and we said there's still more opportunity in London than there is in the whole of Europe. And until that opportunity in London is not being satisfied, then why would you go and talk to Europe? But you can't have that approach now because someone's going to another market before you are. They've cornered that. At the same time, you're trying to find that consumer in your quantitative research group that tells you whether your design looks good. So, there are lots of competing and conflicting information that get in many places.
Thank you so much, Philip. Really, really interesting. I think the sort of the amount of questions that have been asked